Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia and I am leaving the UK. Finally, at the end of this year, I'm going to be packing up my little family and move all of us to Germany. This has been in the works for a very long time and you're probably fed up of hearing me complain about wanting to get away from here. But this is the video where I tell you what and when it's going to happen and also why. If you are unfamiliar with my background, I was born in Germany, grew up in Germany, then moved to Wales in 2014. So I have been here for 6.5 years and it's finally time to me to go back. Bill, my husband, is from England. He also lived with me in Germany, so he has been in Germany before for a couple of years, before we both moved to Wales. Because I am German, although Italian national, my nationality on my passport is actually Italian, and he has a UK passport, Brexit makes it difficult for us to live in one specific place after the end of this year. So since the end of 2019, we have been pretty desperately trying to find work in Germany and trying to figure out how we are going to move us and the two cats to Germany. It's finally happened. Bill managed to get a job as a systems administrator, which is what he does, in healthcare, which is what he does here as well in Germany. So we will be moving to a small town near the city of Freiburg in the south of Germany. That is actually reasonably close to where my parents live as well. I wanted to be near them, but not too close. The last time that I lived in Germany, I actually lived right across the road from my parents. Across the road. Doesn't have to be like that. This time we're going to be about 1.5 hours drive away from them, or 2 hours on the train, I believe, which is totally fine. I'm very happy with that amount of distance. I also really wanted to move back to the Black Forest, which is where I grew up. Where we are is slightly offside of the Black Forest, but it is on the edges of it. So again, that's totally fine. It means I can escape into the forest whenever I want. And that's all I wanted. And look at the adorable little squirrels that live there. I am a student here in the UK. Now, interestingly enough, I started being a student in Wales back in 2014, but I have now switched university to a university in Scotland, which means I'm already doing my PhD from home, long distance, and that isn't really going to change once I live in Germany. I'll probably have to come to the UK on a relatively frequent basis, maybe once, twice a year for my studies, but I'm prepared to travel for that, so that's fine by me. The area that we're moving to in Germany is very difficult to live in. It has a highly competitive rental market. It has some of the most expensive rents in all of Germany, even though it's nowhere near the biggest city in Germany. And because we are moving into a town that's essentially in the commuter belt for that city, the rental prices are, they're quite something. And also finding a place to live is incredibly difficult. We've had no luck trying to find a rental online because they all want you to go and look at the place. Plus, because it's Germany, you have to hand in like 1 million different forms, half of which we can't even get before we live there. So we found a pretty perfect short-term solution, which is to rent out a holiday let for 3 months. Just to give you an indication for just how wildly expensive the rent prices are, we are probably going to end up paying less for the holiday flat than we will later on for a proper rental. Yeah, so anyway, we found a holiday let that lets us move in with the cats, which is a miracle because no one wants cats in the holiday let, but the family who's renting out this flat are also cat people. They also have cats. I believe they live on the ground floor and then we will be living on the first or second floor of the house, but it is a totally adequate place to live. It's going to be big enough for 2 people and 2 cats. And because it's a holiday let, it's bills inclusive, furnished. It's got everything we need to start living our lives there. We've booked this place for 3 months, so we're moving in end of November and we're moving out end of February. And by then we have to have found ourselves a flat for a long-term rental. But I don't think that's going to be much of an issue, because once we're there, it's going to be much easier to talk to estate agents, to see people. In small towns in Germany, a lot of it is about the personal connection. You know someone who knows someone who knows someone who has a spare flat, that kind of thing. Once we start building those connections in Germany, it'll be much easier to find a rental than it has been so far. The move itself is going to be interesting, but we are relatively confident that we will be fine if we manage to move in a caravan. Back in October of last year, Bill and I did a little bit of a test run, and we went on holiday to Germany. I mean, I say holiday, visiting my parents. We went visiting my parents in Germany in a camper van. We took an old VW camper van, packed up the cats, drove to Germany, which was a 4-day journey, spent some time with my parents there, and then drove back, which was another 4-day journey. And that worked out just fine. We figured out how to travel with cats, and it just so happens that my cats are the best cats in the world. They are friendly, they don't mind being picked up, they don't scratch, they don't bite. Beetle is afraid of everything, but even he was totally fine sitting on the back seat of a camper van, tethered to the back seat, wearing a harness. So this time we are hoping to get hold of a bigger caravan. My father-in-law happens to be a caravan salesman. He is going to try and get hold of a caravan for us that we can borrow from the company. See, it just pays off to have connections. It's actually kind of horrible if you think about it. Anyway, he's going to get hold of a caravan, and then all 3 of us, so Bill's father, me, plus the 2 cats, are going to travel to the south of Germany in that caravan. That means that we can take a little bit of stuff with us from the house, but not a lot. There won't be any space for furniture. I'm going to have to leave my plant collection here as well. I have already gotten rid of about half of the clothes that I own, and Bill has done the same. Books. Yes, I'm going to have to leave some of my books. I won't be able to take every single book with me, and that's going to be a painful edit to make. Essentially, we're going to travel with the bare minimum of things. We'll take our clothes, we'll take some of my books, we'll take some of Bill's video games, and sentimental items, musical instruments, the kind of things that you can't just leave behind. Everything else, pretty much everything I'm looking at, all the furniture, is going to be either sold on, Facebook Marketplace or eBay. It's going to be given away to friends. I've already, in fact, gotten rid of my bookshelf in the living room. That's already gone. Gave that to a friend. Hi, Rob. Hope you're enjoying that. The things that are so broken that I don't think we will be able to get rid of, they will go to the tip. The next few weeks of my life are going to be so busy with just decluttering everything. I expect I'll get maybe 1 or 2 videos out of that. Comment down below if you want to see me declutter my TBR, because I think that's some of the books I can probably cut there without missing them too much, because obviously I've not read them yet. Or any other moving related video ideas that you have. Give me your suggestions down below. I might vlog the actual move, just because I think it's going to be a bit of an adventure moving in a caravan, 3 people, 2 cats. But obviously I'm going to have to check with my father-in-law to see if he's okay with being on camera. So I'm not promising that I will be able to document every single step of this move. I'll probably share much of that on social media though, so follow me on Instagram and Twitter for potential updates about this. It also means that I'm going to pre-film as much content as I can, because I expect the month of November to be wildly busy for me as I try and move while still continuing to work on the PhD. Unfortunately, I think BookTube is going to be on the back burner for that, but I'm going to try and make some content in advance, so you'll probably still be seeing this background for a while before I show you the new place, which, as I've said before, is just going to be an intermediate place. It's just going to be for a few months. But be prepared for slightly less frequent uploads. If it gets so busy that I can't upload, then there might just be a week or two where you don't hear anything from me. I hope not though. I hope I can get enough stuff done in advance to keep regular uploads going, because I like that about my channel. I've been fairly reliable in my uploads so far, and I'm not planning on stopping now. Then, once I've moved, I expect there'll be lots of new things to show you. I expect I'll be buying a new bookcase. I expect I'll be maybe checking out some of the local bookshops, seeing what kind of second-hand book options are in Germany. There'll be lots of stuff then as well. I just really hope that the internet connection is decent in the holiday let. Otherwise we're gonna have a problem. Right, I'm hoping that at this point in the video, all of the Brexiters are already too bored with my life to have watched to this point. But I can't make a video about moving without addressing the reasons for this move. And I know that a large amount of my audience is, in fact, in the USA. While I'm sure you are aware of Brexit, I don't expect you to know all of the details about it. So let me just give you a quick timeline of how it affected my life. As I said, I moved here in 2014. Me, an Italian national, and Bill, English national. In 2015, the Conservative Party won the second term in government, and they won an overall majority. Up to that point, they'd been ruling in a coalition with the Liberal Democrats. But in 2015, David Cameron won, and he won on a platform of giving the people a vote on EU membership. That EU referendum, which is now known as the Brexit referendum, took place in 2016. Oh, incidentally, in 2015, Bill and I got married here in Wales. In 2016, the UK voted to come out of the European Union. From that point onward, I knew that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in the UK, and I knew that I didn't even want to spend the next decade in the UK. You can talk to any EU national in the UK, and they will tell you that the EU referendum made us feel incredibly unwelcome here. And that is not to do with EU membership per se. It's not just about whether the UK is part of the EU or not. But the rhetoric that contributed to that result was very heavily anti-immigration, anti-foreigners, and anti-EU. And from the moment in June of 2016, Bill and I had been staying up all night to watch the results. From the moment that the exit polls came in and we knew that it was likely going to be a victory for the Leave campaign, we knew that we didn't want to stay here. It's so hard to explain to British people, but European identity is a huge part of who I am. It comes from the basic fact of me being someone who was born in and grew up in Germany, but whose parents are from Italy. It's part of life near a border. I grew up very close to the French and Swiss border and crossed into them frequently throughout my life. There is a sense of nationality that the British have that I have not encountered in Germany. And there is a sense of belonging to a larger European project that I have not encountered in the UK. That sense of belonging to a larger European project seems to have suddenly sprung up in the Remain camp after the referendum. I have so many acquaintances and friends who did not vote in the Brexit referendum because they didn't think it was going to affect them, because they didn't care about the EU, because they didn't know about the EU. I can't blame them personally for that, because there is a huge lack of understanding and education about the European Union, and there is a huge influx of misinformation and propaganda from especially the print media here. So I can't blame individuals for not having cared about the EU in 2015 and 2016, but they are partly responsible for where the country is at now. So in 2016, Bill and I knew we did not want to stay here. But Brexit was not a quick and done deal, despite what the government kept telling us. The government could not get its own parliament to agree to first a withdrawal agreement, a Brexit deal. Everything got held up by basically inner UK politics. And that led to the resignation, eventually, of Theresa May. In 2019, Boris Johnson became the Prime Minister, and he was re-elected in a general election in December of 2019. And as soon as that happened, Bill and I knew that we had to hurry up with this move. Legally, I'm allowed to live here, but after 2020, I'm only allowed to live here if I apply for and am granted something called settled status. Settled status is not something I automatically get for being an EU citizen in the UK at the moment. I have to apply for it. I am not doing that. When I moved here in 2014, it was under the assumption that I had indefinite leave of stay through my European Union passport. But since that is being taken away, I am not willing to apply for a level of citizenship that I should have been granted anyway. The other way around, Bill, with his British passport, is allowed to live and work indefinitely in Germany as long as he can prove that he was there before the end of the Brexit transition period. And that ends on the 31st of December 2020. So those two reasons combined means that for us it's much easier to move to Germany and have Bill be allowed to stay there if we move this year. Let's jump back to December 2019. Bill and I started looking for work, looking for places, looking for ways to get to Germany. And we got so close on a few occasions. Once, Bill even traveled to Germany. Yeah, this was in February 2020. He traveled to Germany to work at a company for a week. It's like an extended job interview, test working. He essentially got the job, but before they could send him the contract, the coronavirus epidemic hit. They pulled out. They said, sorry, these are uncertain times. We don't know what's going on. We can't offer you the job right now. We'll stay in touch. They didn't, but never mind that. March, as you can imagine, was incredibly difficult for us because we were desperate to get away. And the pandemic spread and made everyone's lives so difficult. We didn't know if we were ever going to be allowed to leave the UK because the whole world went into lockdown. We were worried about industry, we were worried about the economy like everyone else. I had a hope that Germany was going to weather the pandemic better than the UK. And so far, that is correct. Germany has come out now at the end of the year in a much better state than the UK has. Both countries are facing a second wave, so there's no telling where it's going to go now, but so far Germany has been doing okay. Bill kept applying for work throughout the spring, throughout the summer, throughout the autumn, and finally he got a contract now in exactly the field that he wanted to be working in. And this is where we're at now. We are leaving in a few weeks, still trying to sort out the last few details. And because we'll be in Germany before the end of the year, Bill is going to be allowed to stay there, live there, work there forever without applying for settled status. He's just going to be allowed to stay there. Eventually, hopefully next year before the next German general election, I want to apply for German citizenship. It's kind of weird to explain to other countries why I don't have German citizenship, considering I was born there and lived there. At my time of birth, Germany did not give out German citizenship to babies who were born there. So I'm having to apply for German citizenship, but I should be granted that based on the fact that I'm German. I'm hoping to get that sorted before the next German general election in October 2021. Bill says that eventually he wants to get German citizenship as well, but obviously that's his choice and it's going to take much longer for him to get it. He's going to have to live in Germany for a while. So that's where we're at now. That's the future that we're facing. This has been a very long and very personal video, and I hope it doesn't attract too many trolls, because I wanted to just share some happy news. I'm fed up of having conversations about Brexit, and frankly, I can't wait to look at all of this mess here from a safe distance. Thank you for watching. Bye.